Hey, greetings everyone. I hope you are enjoying that incredible moon outside. I just got home. So tonight is part two of my discussion of the power of the liminal space, and in particular, um, about transgender people as liminal people. And hey, welcome, Carl. Nice to see you. So I want to talk a little bit at the beginning about the notion of transition for transgender people because, in mainstream culture and even in most trans communities, then being transgender is often represented as a journey from here to there. And so, you were born on one side of the binary, and through the magic of medicine and the power of language, then you take up residence on the other side of the binary as your quote unquote true self, as usually depicted an ordinary man or woman. Welcome, Linda. And so the language of transition is the main metaphor for trans experience. And indeed, transgender transition is a rite of passage in itself. And so, you say goodbye to your former name, your former self, identity, oftentimes your body. Some folks have medical procedures that are physical and emotional and spiritual ordeals, which require courage and determination and oftentimes several weeks of recovery. And then you debut your new self, signified by a new name, and find your new place in society. At least that is how transgender transition is properly represented. And so, you have the quote unquote surgery, and then voila, you are a bona fide member of the quote unquote opposite sex. And in reality, of course, it's a multi year process of self examination and navigating gatekeepers to gain access to medical intervention, coming out in various social contexts, filling out paperwork and navigating bureaucracy as part of legal identity changes, not very glamorous, tracking tiny incremental shifts as a result of hormones, and depending upon your economic resources and the particular regulations of your geographical location, then some trans folks are not able to complete their journeys in the ways that they would like. And so, though it is commonly believed that most transgender people medically transition, according to a 2011 National Transgender Survey, only 61% of trans-identifying people medically transition, and only 33% surgically transition. So quite different than kind of what popular society thinks. And while many simply do not have economic access, especially given the 70% unemployment rate in trans communities, with trans people being 4 times more likely to live in households with annual incomes under $10,000. Many trans people simply do not desire to medically transition. For instance, only about 14% of trans women, 14% of trans women and 72% of trans men said that they don't actually ever want full genital construction surgery. And so for those of us who are non-binary, then, there is no here to there trajectory. Although I have initiated changes to my body, I never was a woman, and I'm not now a man, nor do I desire to be. And so ever since childhood, there were just my friends who were girls and my friends who were boys, and I was just always something else. And so my entire life has been about exploring the gray areas. First, as someone with a clearly sexed female body, but a highly ambiguous gender presentation, and now as somebody with a pretty consistently masculine gender presentation and with a highly ambiguous body. And so I am fundamentally a hybrid and a shapeshifter. And so, the final phase of rites of passage is reintegration. And, when I was thinking about it, then reintegration really implies that there is a place for you in the community to return to. And for non-binary folks in a binary world, there really isn't a place. And so one of the core traumas of being trans, in my opinion, especially being non-binary, is that existential erasure of being told in your every interaction with society that you simply don't exist. And so we're not really able to complete our rite of passage and instead must remain permanently in the liminal space. Liminal people are neither here nor there. They are betwixt in between, and they are betwixt in between the positions assigned by law and custom and ceremony in society. And so liminal beings are those who can't really be easily placed in a single category of existence. So I think of us as kind of the border animals like seals and ducks and frogs belonging to multiple worlds and having the capacities to live in both. And so therein, lies our social isolation as well as our power, our danger. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the relationship of a couple of stereotypes about trans people as being dangerous and its relation to being liminal figures. And so in contemporary dialogues, media dialogues, then transgender people are frequently represented as dangerous threats, especially as sexual predators in the bathroom debates. And I believe that this is fundamentally related to our liminal status, although most people would not necessarily recognize that on a conscious level. Because the liminal phase is dangerous, for individuals undergoing it as well as for society. So because the liminal stage is in a rite of passage, generally involves physical tests and hardship, then people can literally die from their participation, especially if they're already vulnerable or are not in the hands of a skilled ritual elder. And while the liminal phase can be a positive time of renewal, as I talked about a little bit last time, liminal space is fundamentally a time of uncertainty, often anguish and existential terror. Is really a deep time of facing the void. And so also with regards to rites of passage, then liminal folks who are in the liminal stage tend to be regarded as threatening and polluting to society because liminal folks are not fixed within the social structure, but instead are ambiguous and fluid and mobile. So such as immigrants and trans and intersex folks and bisexual and pansexual people and multiracial and bilingual people, were regarded with suspicion and hostility. And so liminal people are particularly perceived as dangerous by those who are in charge of maintaining structure and social order. Especially because, as I mentioned last time, then the liminal phase itself is a time of scrutiny of central cultural values, where the very structure of society and ordinary ways of thinking are temporarily suspended. And so, one of the core contracts of society is that its fundamental rules and premises won't be questioned. And so such scrutiny and openness can be felt as quite threatening. And especially, during a liminal phase where, especially during a collective liminal phase, where continuity of tradition may become uncertain and future outcomes that were once taken for granted are thrown into doubt, which is what I talked about last time about the state of the society that we are currently living in, then societies can manage their fears about an uncertain future by scapegoating liminal figures. And so this is exactly what we are seeing with the Trump administration targeting immigrants and targeting trans people in particular. And people can even have a physical revulsion towards those who blur boundaries that the culture teaches are the natural order. And I think that this is part of the extreme kind of acting out that we see towards trans people. In the situation where trans people are murdered, then they're not usually shot or stabbed one or two times, but like 10, 12, 50 times, which is really a sign of the kind of frenzied hysteria that people feel when they are feeling threatened to the core in that way. And so another of the main stereotypes of transgender people, again related to being sexual predators in the bathroom, is the idea that we are actively misleading people um, by identifying with the gender other than the one that we were assigned at birth. And so, thinking about the trials of people who murder trans people, you know, folks actually receive reduced sentences for arguing the trans panic defense, which really the essence of it is, especially with regards to trans women who have a penis, the idea that, oh, she was lying about who she was and therefore she deserved to die. And people have reduced sentences as a result. And so I think that this also has some cultural resonance around our liminal role as well. And so, in thinking about literature, then the trickster is a quintessential liminal character. And so, in mythic literature, then the trickster represents inversion of reality, the sowing of confusion, and causing people to doubt their perceptions. And so the trickster flits in and out of the social structure, refusing to be pinned down. And so, trickster characters, liminal characters, possess a freedom of movement that non-liminal characters do not have. However, such freedom comes at a price. And so, first of all, while freedom of movement can be very empowering, the flip side of that is a lack of stability. And so, being betwixt and between means that you don't belong anywhere. You don't have a place. And secondly, in modern society, then those who possess freedom really invite punishment. And so there is special resentment directed towards those who defy societal rules, and especially those that are seen as particularly onerous. And so, thinking about capitalism, yes, of course, everyone would like to work less. On some level, we understand the ways that being required to give so much of our life energy to jobs that do not nourish us and instead use our vitality and creativity for someone else's gain is damaging to us and unhealthy to society. Yet we feel powerless to change this, and so we must make sure that everybody abides by those rules. So we demonize people as lazy or dangerous if they dare to question those prevailing expectations. And so, yes, gender roles and monogamous marital expectations are onerous, but that's what it means to be a quote adult in the quote real world. And so, if some are able to get free, then it forces others to confront why they are actually not free. And this is uncomfortable. And so, most people would rather feel imprisoned but righteous and punish those who defy the rules. So, if I have to abide by these oppressive rules, then by God, so will you. And so, trans people, and especially those who are non-binary, live as part of society, but not fully legitimate or integrated, neither belonging nor completely cast away, torn from the past, but denied a sure future, and facing usually a continual series of crises. And so we tend to live on the margins of society, oftentimes intentionally, outside of kind of common society. And so there's ways that liminality is alluring to people, liminality is sacred, and liminality is also dangerous. And so, of course, those of you who know me know that I would never advocate assimilation into a dysfunctional binary society as a remedy to our liminal status. And so I believe that this just bolsters the power and the normalcy of those forces that oppress us. So how can we use our liminal status to further our own power and influence, and especially to quicken the dramatic societal transformation that I believe that we are here for, that I talked about last time. And so I believe that the answer lies in the paradigm shift that prompted me to want to start this Facebook group, which is to shift the discourse around the role of trans people in society. That we are not vulnerable victims or ridiculous misfits or dangerous threats in ways that we are portrayed, nor are we quote unquote normal. Instead, we are, I believe, key teachers and leaders to help free, especially cisgender people, from the kind of binary thinking that is imprisoning us and that is leading us to so much of the polarization that we are currently stuck in. And so I believe that we are here to awaken other people's desires to be free and to help show them the way. Based on what we uniquely know and understand and experience, being located outside of that binary framework that most people find to be, normal and inevitable. And so we are demonstrating that it's not necessarily inevitable, that there are other choices. It's part of my passion in being a teacher and really wanting to demonstrate to my students that there are more options than what you have been led to believe. So my goodness, welcome Alistair and Kai. Thank you, Amanda, for your comments. And Aaron and Brittany. Yes, being intersex. Yes, I was talking about transgender people, and I was thinking and should have specified, I'm talking about not just trans-identified people, of course, but intersex and genderqueer and agender and all the folks who fall outside of the gender binary in a whole variety of ways. So thank you so much for being here. The last talk that I will do on this particular subject will be on the weekend, I think on Saturday. And I'll be talking about how we can better utilize tools for when we find ourselves in liminal phases in our personal lives, which can be, as I mentioned, times of existential terror and anguish. And can be very scary, kind of the space between what was and what will be. And so I'm going to offer some tools based on my own personal experience of being simultaneously in multiple types of liminal spaces, especially over the last couple of years, to help people out who are struggling with that. So is there's anything that anybody wants to add or any questions, now would be a great time. And just so, I love all the comments. So appreciative of having you all here. Had a wonderful time on the Phoenix camping trip over the weekend. It was really, really awesome. And I look forward to being with you again on this coming weekend. All right, take care. Love you all very much.